How's it going? I have a new microphone. So I got some feedback that in my previous videos, some people had trouble hearing me, not everyone, but if there's something I can do, I thought let me get this microphone. And I've also mentioned in my previous video that I am recording these on my cell phone. So I was using my cell phone audio before, just speaking into it without a microphone. I just bought this lavalier mic, so the sound quality should be better now. If it's not, please let me know and then I'll see what else I can do. Today you will not be seeing a lot of me, one, because the sun decided to leave, two, because I'm going to be painting today. And I have this sketch pad or watercolor pad. Today I wanted to try painting while talking about some stuff that's been on my mind lately. So this might be long, I'm not sure, but I'm going to put timestamps in the description box so that the different topics that I talk about, you can jump to them if you want to hear about something specific. I have a brief outline of what I want to say, which is just I want to talk to you about values and community. So these are things that I've been thinking about honestly all year, but in the past month or so, community has been on my mind a lot. And I think because I wanted to figure it out, then I didn't talk about it. Like I figured I need to figure out what the perfect community looks like, or what my ideal community looks like, or I need to figure out how to do community before I start talking about it. But I think actually I'm just going to go ahead and talk about it, and I'd be really interested to hear what your thoughts are. And I want to share my values with you. These are values that I wrote down at the end of last year, and I've looked back on them to see how they've held up in 2020, and yeah, they've held up. I mean, they're still important to me, but one thing that I've been thinking of is, are these still my most important values, especially as there's a lot of conversation about social change, and I'm thinking about how my values play into that. So I guess before getting too much more into this, I'll start painting. The point was that I wanted to try something, and I figured it would be entertaining because I'm not a painter. I bought this like 3 weeks ago and I've used it 2 or 3 times. So you'll see what I'm doing. I'll be just as surprised as you are to see the result, and then you can also chat with me about some things that have been on my mind. Not in real time, of course, because this will be in the comments, the conversation. But yeah, let's get started. All right, so I'm all set up over here. I have my luxurious 12-pack of watercolor paints from the Euro store. And I have this paper towel that I'm going to be using for blotting. And this is my own technique that I developed as a newbie painter, blotting things so that I don't get too much color on the page. But that was also when I was painting on printer paper, and I was having a lot of trouble with things bleeding through and the paper getting too wet. So maybe I won't need to blot as much right now. And then I have some water. Hopefully you get some nice ASMR qualities going on, even though the mic is by me. So I'm going to start painting, and I'm going to talk about values and try to multitask. What should I draw? I have this book that I got from a trip to Alicante. So I think I'll actually try to do this. And hoping my tripod doesn't break, because when I picked it up to record it, I dropped it and then it was fine, and then I picked it up again and a leg just fell off. So I put the leg back on and I hope it stays on. And let's get started. So I'm going to start with some blue, dark blue at the top. And oh, this needs to be in portrait mode. It's also hard to paint because the camera is in front of me. So I don't know how people normally do this. They probably have a taller tripod. And yeah, we make do. Ooh, that looks so much nicer than painting on printer paper. Oh my gosh. Wow, it's so cool. So on December 28th, 2019, I was answering this journal prompt. Oh, that looks so cool. And the question was, above all else, I stand for what? And then, oh, I forgot to lock the focus, so let me do that. Okay. And I'm gonna move this. Wow, okay, so the leg did fall off, but you know what I did? Oh, and I just moved it. So now my tripod only has 2 legs, but the legs of the tripod are very bendy. So I got a drying rack and I bent the other 2 legs of the tripod around the drying rack, which also gives me height so that I have enough space to paint while still recording. And I solved the 2-legged tripod problem. What was I saying? In December, I was answering these journaling questions, journaling prompts, and it was above all else, I stand for what? And you're supposed to choose 3 things. And the source that I got these prompts from said, if you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have priorities. So I chose clarity, nurture, and curiosity. Those are my values. Those are the values I wanted to focus on in 2020. Then you're supposed to ask 3 questions to help you to clearly define these values. So, oh my gosh, this is so nice. Painting on watercolor paper is so much better than painting on printer paper. Oh, another thing I remembered from looking up some tutorials was you're supposed to get the paper wet first and then put the color on it, but I didn't do that. Oops. So the questions to ask are, 1, does this define me? 2, is this who I am at my best? And 3, is this the value I lean on when making hard decisions? For clarity, there was a thought process behind each value, and there were other things that I wanted to choose and I ended up not. With clarity, I also thought about truth and honesty because truth and honesty are really important to me. The word clairvoyance also came to mind. Been thinking a lot about spirituality and how to have more of it in my life. And also I think clairvoyance is not just like a supernatural thing. It's about like intuition and literally seeing clearly. I thought that clarity actually encompassed all of those things: truth, honesty, and clairvoyance. And I think that clarity also means mental clarity, right? Taking care of your body and your mind so that you can have mental clarity as well. So that was the first one I chose. My second value is nurture. And I was trying to decide between growth and nurture. To nurture is to protect something while it grows. And I also thought about the word cultivate. I was thinking about nurture and then my mind went to cultivate, but ultimately I decided that nurture is better. Nurture has a more intimate feel, and cultivation seems like it could be about profit, or as if the end is more important and not the journey of growth. Do you feel that? Like if you're cultivating something, it almost sounds like curating. Like the point is that you want to show or you want to produce something and you've perfected it. But I think nurture shows, there's a process and something is growing and you love it at every stage. So that's why I chose nurture. When I wrote this in 2018 or in 2019, I said, I like nurture because I've been thinking a lot lately about children and how to protect and support them as they grow. Nurturing is also about support, not just protection. And yeah, you will think about children a lot and protecting them a lot if you're doing inner child work, which is an important part of trauma work, I think. And I have been doing a lot of trauma work with my therapist. So, also thinking about what I had and didn't have growing up, and thinking about how people in the future, maybe people who are not born yet, deserve certain things that I did not have access to, and thinking about how I would be able to nurture that in a human being. Well, honestly, I'm shocked. Apparently, the secret to enjoying what you paint is the paper you paint it on. Like, maybe sometime I'll show you what it looks like to paint on printer paper, but I really felt so bad about myself after doing that. And then I got watercolor paper and suddenly I feel like a pro. I mean, not really, but this just looks so much better. The third value was curiosity. And I was trying to decide, I should have done the red before I did the sun, because let me show you. Right now, how am I going to get the red background? The third one was curiosity. And I was trying to choose between curiosity and creativity, and I was like, which is more important to me? And I'm just reading from my journal here because it's, I wrote about it. So I said, they're both things I've been shamed for. Curiosity and creativity. I've been shamed for both of them. I ask a lot of questions. I have an active imagination. I feel like curiosity is the question and creativity is the answer. Curiosity is the thinking phase, while creativity is the doing phase, maybe? No, I don't know. What do you think? In the end, I chose curiosity because it seems less tied to productivity. I feel like it's easy to get focused on producing, and it's easy for, I'm gonna try putting water on the paper first and then adding the color. Oh, okay, that didn't work because there was still paint on it, but let's try again. Okay. Multitasking is really hard. I don't know how people do, like, get ready with me's and stuff like that. I thought it'd be funny to do a get ready with me because I don't get ready. Like, you would just watch me roll out of bed, eat some cereal, and then sit at the computer. Anyway, I think it's easy to get focused on producing, and it's easy for creatives especially to get caught up in this. Like, we need to be creative so that we can produce, and we need to sell. But I don't need to rush myself. That's what I wrote December 28th, 2019. I said, I need to leave time for curiosity, for information seeking and gathering. In the end, this will probably lead to the most creative outcome anyway. And I feel like that's true. The thing about not rushing is that there's a lot of fear, at least in my experience, there's fear that I will run out of time. Even right now, like I'm creating, but I also have this fear of like, what happens if I get to the point where, funds are really low and, I don't have time to be creative because I have to do something else that will give me money and something that people think is valuable enough to give me money for. So, things that I think about. I also said that I like curiosity because it's discussed in this book, The Body Keeps the Score, which is written by Bessel van der Kolk. I'd highly recommend it if you are interested in trauma work and learning about how trauma is stored in the body and how it affects you in not just like conscious and subconscious ways, but even like physiologically. In The Body Keeps the Score, he explains that curiosity is bypassed in the brains of traumatized people. If a traumatized person sees another human, the brain goes straight to fear. And I know this is true because I experience it. So when a stranger looks at me, I am more likely to feel fight or flight than I am to feel curiosity. And I want to, move away from that response, and that requires healing and curiosity. Well, yeah, I think it does require curiosity to move into curiosity. So you can have a little bit of it and then it can feed, the growth of more curiosity. So those are my 3: clarity, nurture, and curiosity. I'm just going to add a little bit more red here, and then we're going to go back into the blues. So those are my values that I plan to, reflect on and have guide me through 2020. Do I think that those values still hold true? Like, are those still what I stand for above all else? It's really hard for me to say that it's like above all else. I still think those are really important to me. And curiosity especially has been helpful in conflict resolution. Something that I'm learning is to approach difficult conversations from a place of curiosity and, to try to assume that the other person has good intentions and then find out what was going on for them, what their experience was. And it's interesting, like, values, you have your own, and then oftentimes you want other people to find your own values as important to them as they are to you. And if they don't, then you, like, at least, I have experienced that I will judge someone because they don't value the same things, and I think that my values are really important. And I was watching this IG live by Colin Bedell, also known as queercosmos. He was doing an IG live with another person called dteapriestess, and I thought this was a really nice conversation. I can post it in the description. Colin said this thing about judgment. He said, "Where we judge is where we're most susceptible to shame." And he said, when you're judging other people, you are essentially outing your biggest fears. And when I heard that, I was just like, whoa, that makes so much sense, that we judge people for things that we feel ashamed about. I struggle with, sharing my work and promoting myself. And I think, a lot of artists experience this. And I'm not talking about like visual artists. I am not. I'm a writer, and I also enjoy making videos. But I can struggle to share like the writing that I've done or feel self-conscious afterwards. And to get where I want to get, I need to be able to share my work and not feel guilty or ashamed for doing it. Do I judge other people who I see that are like sharing their work seemingly without fear? Because I don't know, it's one thing to do it. Doing something doesn't mean you're not afraid. Courage is not the absence of fear. So the point was that I think sometimes I judge people who seem, really confident. They're sharing themselves and they well, I blinked out, so I'm just going to talk about this painting for a little bit. This is not what a sunset looks like in my experience. If you have seen a sunset that looks like this, tell me where to go, because it sounds kind of otherworldly, and I would love to see it actually. So in conclusion, I'm making an amazing otherworldly experience that no one has ever seen before. You're welcome. Anyway, back to feeling uncomfortable when sharing your work. So sometimes when I see people, and they're sharing, and I think it's the confidence, honestly, that I can judge sometimes, or I'm like, oh, you're so into like what you've created, and why would I judge that? There's nothing actually wrong with that, and it really is about shame, I think, right? Like if I were to share something and really just enthusiastically support myself, then I might feel like people are judging me, thinking that I am, I don't know, like narcissistic or egocentric. And so it's actually funny that, so apparently I'm judging other people because I'm afraid of what I think other people are judging me for. So then it just becomes this vicious cycle. And I'm curious, I would like to hear from you. What do you find yourself judging people for the most? And do you think it's true that you do this because there's some underlying shame for you, and then it becomes like some sort of projection? Okay. So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of values. And I'm saying this before it's not like it's really fully formed. I don't have a bunch of answers, but it's something that I wanted to share. This page is almost full. So I think I'll just talk a little bit about community, and then we will call this good. So I've been thinking a lot about community, in June when there was this uprising in the US because of police violence. And it honestly wasn't just about police violence. Like, it's about things that us Black people have been, experiencing and holding for so long. And then, it comes to a breaking point. But I was thinking a lot about community because a lot of people were talking about it and talking about mutual aid. And I mean, mutual aid also came into conversation earlier than that because of COVID. So, all of these things are coming to a head. We're talking about social change, mutual aid, community, and I'm gonna put some orange right here. That sounds good. And, it's like, how do you have community when you're in your apartment by yourself for months, literally months? And, like, I don't know a lot of people in my neighborhood, and, right now a lot of the community has become digitized, and that's okay, but sometimes it starts to feel like, I don't feel like I can, survive off of a purely digital community. Do you? So I have been feeling, honestly, like lonely and isolated. I know many people that have been feeling this lately due to like quarantine and stuff like that. And so then I tend to think about community and like how if I have a community here in Berlin that maybe things would be different. But something that I've come to lately is kind of, not that I'm disregarding community, but I'm also thinking more about what do you do when community is not available to you? Like, maybe it will be later, but just right now it's not. Because actually, okay, it didn't bleed through. Because actually, growing up, I didn't really have community available to me. I had a church community, and, that's community that later, became very let's say it was restrictive all the time, and I didn't notice it until much later, and then I had to leave. But right, that was my community. But other than that, like, even as a kid growing up, I was pretty isolated. And so it's like, I did survive that, and even without a community. So sometimes you just need to, that's just what you have to do. And what do you do to survive that? What are things that help you feel less isolated? And, you know, this is a question for myself. So what are some things that help me feel less isolated? And what are some things that help me feel more connected to the world around me? And I like this question, like feeling more connected to the world around you, because it's not just people, other humans. The world around me involves, you know, plants that I can see from my window, involves wildlife, involves like the squirrels that jump on my balcony, and you know, I could do things that could help me feel more connected to them. I could do things that help me feel more connected to ancestors, which I really just had this thought as I'm recording, and it does feel really nice actually to think that ancestors are part of my community, because that is something that is more accessible than some humans that are here on this earth right now, actually. And that's really cool, and I'm going to think about that more. So I think that making videos is one thing that helps me feel more connected to the world around me. When I'm not making videos, I'm often watching videos on YouTube, and I like hearing people's thoughts and how they're processing. I really think this is like a moment that it's so nice that we, like, as much as it's annoying, you know, to like be at a concert and then everyone has their phone out and recording, like I'm actually really grateful for that now, because you know, we can't go to concerts, but you can look back at footage and be like, oh, that was a thing. Like, what if concerts never become a thing again? All we have is, you know, those cell phone recordings, and also probably professionally recorded footage, but that's besides the point. So am I done here? Like, what else do I need to do? Maybe add some blue. Okay, I got it. Watch me. So yeah, I was saying that watching YouTube videos actually helps me feel more connected to people. And I started creating videos recently because I have thoughts that I know that I'm not alone in these thoughts and experiences, and I wanted to just share them with people who might feel alone in them. And also, you know, it does come down to values as well. Like, if someone who has similar values as me finds this, then we may not be like a community in the sense of helping each other's in the way that like a local community would, but it is nice to even have just a brief encounter with a like-hearted person. And this is something that I thought about recently, and just saw this written somewhere, the difference between like-minded and like-hearted. So, you know, like-minded is, you know, people thinking the same thing as you. Maybe they have this exact same like political beliefs, and you know, you can't get along with them unless they agree with the things that you want them to agree with. But then like-hearted is like, even if they don't agree with you, because they have the same values, you know, maybe like curiosity, willingness to be open and understanding, to have a good conversation, even if in the end you don't agree with each other, like that's more about like-heartedness. And that's also about values. So yeah, I'm interested in forming connections with like-hearted people. If you're not like-minded, please don't be rude about it. Like, don't be in my comments being like, I don't know. I haven't had any nasty comments, and that's cool. So all I ask for is respect and openness, and living by values that make the world around you better and make yourself better, because I have found that it's important to, like, you know, put your mask on before you help other people. There is a point last week where I got so focused on ways that I can help other people, and then I felt really out of it. And then I was reminded that, yeah, I need to take care of myself too, and you know what feels good to me, and just like spent some time doing that, and I feel a lot better, and I'm able to record this video. Hopefully it's, you know, provides some food for thought, and I'd love to have a conversation about this with people. It's really just the beginning, and like this was not scripted, so there's no conclusion here. But there is a finished painting. I'll take the camera off this drying rack and give you a close-up, and then I will say goodbye. Here is my beautiful masterpiece. Thank you for being a part of this first edition of, I don't know what these talks are called. I'm going to make up some kind of name and create a playlist of these types of videos because I really enjoyed doing it. It was very meditative. I found it easier to talk without censoring myself, which feels a little bit dangerous because maybe I'm going to replay this video and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that. But I'm gonna go for it. And let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll post the journaling questions in the description box if you're interested. It's never too late to think about what your values are. Drink some water, and I'll see you in the next video.